If the ledger is not transparent, your assets have already been stolen.
This is not a theory.
Mm-hmm.
That is a brutal reality,
Mm-hmm.
proven by 5,000 years of economic history.
Okay, let's stop right there.
Mm-hmm.
That is a heavy way to open a show. I mean, usually we ease into these things, right?
Well,
Talk about market trends, a new book, whatever. But today feels different.
It has to be different.
Huh.
Look, we are not here to discuss wealth as a luxury today.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to discuss it as the record of your labor, the hours of your life you traded away.
And the entity that controls that record.
Controls the human attached to
Yeah.
it. If the record is opaque, you are not a participant in the economy. You are a resource being harvested.
Welcome to the deep dive. We are definitely shifting gears today, adopting the asset move protocol.
Which means, for our listeners, we are dropping the usual optimism.
We're getting cynical, high stakes, and looking at the raw mechanics of power. And to do that, you've brought us a source that, honestly, when I first saw the name, I thought we were doing a history lesson.
History is just data that has had time to settle.
Fair enough. We're looking at a figure from the 4th century BCE, ancient India, the Mauryan Empire, Kautilya.
Also known as Chanakya.
Right. And most people know him as a philosopher, maybe the guy who wrote some aphorisms.
Yeah.
But you're framing him as something very different.
The ruthless architect of a superpower.
Yeah.
Kautilya wasn't just a philosopher. I mean, if you look at his manual, the Shastra, he was a forensic auditor with an army. And today, we are positioning him as the 6th guardian of Bitcoin.
Whoa, okay. That is a massive leap. You're connecting a guy who wrote on bamboo scrolls 2,300 years ago to a decentralized digital currency.
I know.
You're going to have to justify that connection.
It sounds like a strange connection, I grant you. But we are going to prove that the modern financial system, the Fed, the banks, the treasuries, has utterly failed Kautilya's forensic audit. And that Bitcoin is the only technology that solves the paradox he discovered centuries before electricity was even a concept.
Okay, let's unpack this. Start with the architecture of distrust. Because when I read through the notes, the Mauryan Empire, it did not sound like a democracy.
It wasn't. It was a machine. Kautilya designed it on a single cold premise. You cannot trust human morality.
He didn't build it on hope.
No, not on the goodness of the king. He assumed that everyone, given the chance, would act in their own self-interest.
Yeah.
Every time.
And he viewed the treasury, the kosha?
As the physical body of the state. Correct. He wrote, all state activities depend first on the treasury. If the treasury is depleted, the state dies. It's that simple.
But there's a problem he ran into immediately.
A huge one. To manage a treasury, you need humans, accountants, tax collectors, ministers.
And humans have flaws. Which leads to one of his most famous metaphors, honey on the tongue.
It's a brilliant, cynical insight. He says, just as it is impossible not to taste the honey that finds itself on the tip of the tongue.
So it is impossible for a government servant not to eat up at least a bit of the king's revenue. Hold on, I want to challenge that. Impossible. That seems pretty bleak. Are we saying there's no such thing as an honest accountant?
In Kautilya's view, no, not over a long enough timeline. Think about the biology of it. It's a reflex. If you put honey on your tongue, you taste it. You don't decide to.
Right.
He's arguing that if a human has access to the ledger, if they have the power to move value without consequence, theft isn't a possibility. It's a biological certainty.
So it's not about character, it's about proximity.
Exactly. And he used another metaphor to explain why it's so hard to catch them. The fish in water.
Right. I have the quote. Just as it is impossible to know when a fish swimming underwater is drinking water.
It is difficult to detect when officials are misappropriating funds. That is the nightmare of the central banker even today.
The fish is surrounded by water, the banker is surrounded by money.
The friction is invisible. If the ledger is opaque, if it's underwater, you cannot stop the fish from drinking. You can't even see them do it.
So, knowing this, Kautilya goes on the offensive. And this is the part of the Arthashastra that really surprised me. He didn't just complain, he taxonomized it. He made a list.
The 40 ways of embezzlement.
It sounds like a BuzzFeed list from 300 BCE.
It essentially is, but it's the birth of forensic accounting. And when you read this list, the hair on the back of your neck stands up because he isn't describing ancient history.
He's describing Wall Street. He's describing the mechanics of modern fraud.
Precisely.
Let's run through a few. I want to see if they hold up. Method 1, timing manipulation.
Entering revenue realized earlier at a later date or vice versa.
In the modern context.
We see this in quarterly earnings reports constantly. A corporation will Stuff the channel, push sales into this quarter to hit a bonus, or delay them to the next quarter to smooth out earnings. It's time manipulation.
To create a false narrative of value.
Right?
Okay, hold up. Method 2. Workforce fraud. The ghost employee. Diverging wages for labor that doesn't exist.
Back then, that meant listing a dead soldier and keeping his pay. Or a village laborer who never showed up.
And Kautilya's spies would actually go to the villages and cross-reference birth records to catch this.
They did. But in the modern world, this is the bloated government contract.
How so?
Think about a massive infrastructure bill. Billions spent on consulting fees for projects that never even happen. Or defense contracts where labor costs are padded by 300%. You're paying for labor that produces no kinetic result.
You are paying a ghost.
A very expensive ghost.
Depressingly accurate. Okay, method 3. Value manipulation. Raising prices before purchase to pocket the difference.
That's the military-industrial complex in a nutshell. We've all heard the stories, the $1,200 coffee cups, the $50,000 hammers.
The vendor raises the price, the purchasing officer approves it, they split the difference.
It's a simple arbitrage of authority. Kautilya saw it 2,300 years ago.
And then there's the big one, weights and measures, using false weights to reduce the volume entering the treasury.
Today, we call that debasement. We call that inflation.
Connect those dots for me, because, a false weight sounds like a merchant using a lighter stone on a scale.
Right. But what is the central bank doing? When they print money, they are changing the weight of the dollar in your pocket. They increase the supply, which decreases the purchasing power of every single unit you hold.
They're reducing the volume of your labor without technically taking a bill from your wallet.
It's the ultimate false weight. It's theft via dilution. And Kautilya hated it.
He was obsessive about preventing this. He instituted triple verification, right? Demanding every entry record, the date, the time, and the place.
He was trying to create a timestamp.
Yeah.
He understood that without a timestamp, truth is malleable. He also rotated officials frequently.
What was the logic there?
Transfer them before they find the loopholes.
He was trying to build a system where the fish couldn't drink. But, and here's where the story pivots, where our asset move strategy comes in.
He failed.
He failed. Why had to? If he was this smart, why did the system collapse?
Because of the Watchman paradox. To enforce these 40 laws, to check the timestamps, to rotate the officials, who does the work?
Other humans.
Exactly. Kautilya created a massive network of spies, the Gudapurusha, spies to watch the accountants. But then, of course, he realized the spies had honey on their tongues, too.
They could be bribed.
So he had to deploy spies to watch the spies.
It's an infinite loop.
An infinite loop of cost and corruption. You're bleeding capital just to monitor the people monitoring the capital. Collusion is inevitable. In a human-based system, the audit eventually just becomes a negotiation. I won't report your theft if you give me 10%.
And we have a perfect, brutal, modern example of this failure. We need to talk about the United States Department of Defense.
The most well-funded organization in human history. The modern Mauryan army.
They recently underwent an audit, and the results, well, calling them bad is an understatement.
It was a catastrophe.
They failed their audit, not once, but consecutively. The 7th and 8th audits failed.
Let's look at the numbers. And honestly, when I saw this data point, I thought it had to be a typo. I checked 3 different sources.
What was the number?
They were unable to account for 61% of their assets.
61%.
61%. We are talking about trillions of dollars.
Trillions.
Gone. Or at least invisible.
I mean, imagine if a corporation told the IRS, hey, sorry, we don't know where 61% of our revenue went.
They'd be raided by noon. The CEO would be in handcuffs.
But the DoD is the sovereign. They are the king. This is the failure of Kautilya's model in high definition. The U.S. government has the spies, the inspectors, the laws, but it cannot pass the audit.
And why? Because the ledger is opaque. The fish are drinking the water and nobody can see it. The 40 ways of embezzlement are running rampant because there is no transparent, immutable record.
So the Watchman paradox is real. You can't hire enough auditors to fix a system that is fundamentally opaque.
Correct. And this brings us to the thesis of this deep dive. The solution to this 2,300-year-old problem didn't come from a government. It didn't come from a bank. It came from a pseudonym.
It came from Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, we need to be careful here. This isn't about hyping a coin. We're looking at the structure. How does Satoshi solve Kautilya's problem?
We need to stop thinking of Satoshi as just a coder. He was a strategist. He looked at the Watchman paradox, this infinite loop of spies, and he found the exit. He realized you cannot solve the problem of human trust with more humans.
You have to remove the human from the loop?
Entirely.
Yep.
He replaced the Gutta Purusha, the spies, with mathematical full nodes.
This is the critical shift. And for the listener who might just be checking prices and not the tech, we need to clarify what a node is.
Yes.
Break that down. A node is not a miner, right?
No, that's a common misconception. Miners spend energy to propose new blocks. They're like the workers bringing gold to the treasury. But the nodes are the auditors. The nodes are the ones who check the work.
The node is the guy with the clipboard.
A clipboard made of granite. A Bitcoin node has no soul, it has no mortgage to pay, it has no political ambition, and most importantly, it has no tongue to taste the honey.
It's bribeless.
It is a ruthless, automated auditor. Every 10 minutes, every single node on the network verifies the entire history of the ledger. If a miner tries to commit value manipulation, say creating more Bitcoin than the protocol allows, the node doesn't negotiate.
It doesn't ask for a cut.
It simply rejects the block. End of story.
It's the Pilsel red taste strategy applied to accounting. Immediate, binary, no gray area.
Compare the performance data. The DoD, 61% unaccounted for. High corruption risk. Bitcoin. Since 2009, it has 99.98% total uptime. Since 2014, it has had 100% uptime.
That's over 11 years of continuous integrity.
And the ledger error rate, 0. Not a single Satoshi has been created out of thin air. Not a single valid transaction has been erased. It is the only financial system on Earth with a 0% error rate.
This brings up the Lindy effect. You talk about this in our strategy sessions.
The Lindy effect basically says that for non-perishable things like ideas or technologies, the longer it's survived, the longer it's likely to survive in the future.
So because Bitcoin's been around for 16 years, it's likely to be around for another 16.
Ideally. But the connection here is deeper. Bitcoin is only 16 years old, technically. But philosophically, it is 2,300 years old. Its logic is pure Kautilya.
It's the resurrection of the perfectly monitored ledger.
It's the patch. Kautilya dreamed of a system where the timestamp couldn't be faked, where the audit was total. He just didn't have the technology. He had bamboo scrolls and spies.
Satoshi had cryptography and electricity.
So Bitcoin isn't a new invention. It's the final implementation of an ancient forensic manual. It is the immortal treasury.
The kosha that cannot be eaten.
Exactly.
I want to take a moment and visualize this because we're talking about abstract numbers, but this is a clash of civilizations. I want our listeners to really picture the synthesis here, the mythic tech noir.
Let's do it.
So close your eyes. Imagine you are in the Pataliputra stone archives. It's dark. The air smells like dust and ozone. You see these massive Ashoka pillars, those ancient stone columns, but they aren't engraved with royal edicts.
They're engraved with binary code.
Blocks of SHA 256 hash functions carved into the sandstone.
SHA 256, the cryptographic fingerprint, the math that proves a document hasn't been altered, carved into rock. And you hear the scratching of ancient quills on parchment, thousands of them. But underneath that sound, there's a low, powerful hum.
The sound of server fans, ASICs mining.
And standing in the center of this archive is Kautilya.
He's not the dusty philosopher in the paintings. He's sharp, dangerous. The single lock of hair, the shika on his shaved head. In one hand, he's holding a bamboo scroll.
The list of the 40 embezzlements. And in the other hand,
a hardware wallet, cold storage.
He looks at you and he isn't smiling.
No. He gives you a look that says, I do not trust your morality, I don't trust your government, I don't trust your auditors, I only trust the consensus.
That is the vibe. That is the reality we are moving toward. The soulless advantage. We have to stop looking for better leaders to fix the treasury. That's the trap.
Kautilya proves that even the best leaders, the most rigorous systems, fail if they rely on trust.
Trust is a vulnerability. That's the lesson.
Yeah.
In cybersecurity, we call a system trustless when it's secure. In finance, we've been told to trust the system for so long that we forgot that trust means risk.
Bitcoin removes the risk by removing the trust.
Exactly.
So let's bring this home. We've analyzed the history, the failure of the modern state audit, that 61% black hole, and we've identified the solution. What's the play? What's the strategic recommendation?
The assessment is simple. We live in an era of opaque money printing. This is the grandest form of value manipulation Kautilya ever warned against. They are diluting the weight of your labor every single day. If you're holding your wealth in a ledger, you cannot audit a bank account, a fiat currency. You are the fish in the water.
And they are drinking you dry. The call to action is not just to buy Bitcoin, is it? It's deeper.
Buying is passive. The strategic move is to run a full node.
Explain why. Why does running a node matter to the average person?
Because running a node is not a hobby. It is an act of reclaiming sovereign power. When you run a node, you are the Mauryan royal auditor. You are the spy who cannot be bribed. You're verifying the supply yourself. You aren't asking the Federal Reserve how much money exists. You are checking the math on your own hardware.
It's the only way to ensure the honey isn't being tasted.
Exactly. You verify the scarcity. You verify the ownership. You take the power of the kosha back from the state and hold it on your own server.
Kautilya hid the ledger to protect the throne. He kept it in the stone archives, away from the people.
But Satoshi opened it. He broadcast it to the entire world to protect humanity.
That's the choice. That's the line in the sand. You can stay with the opaque ledger, the 61% failure rate, the ghost employees, and the honey on the tongue. Or you can migrate to the immortal treasury.
The logic is 2,300 years old. The code is 16 years old. The opportunity is now.
Kautilya hid the ledger to protect the throne, but Satoshi opened it to protect humanity. Which side of history are you on?
End of transmission.
Deep dive complete.